Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is Ship Updates. Now, of course, this week we got brand new, gorgeous footage of the Reclaimer. We got some updates on the Hull C, and in the weekly newsletter email, we also got some added shots of the interior of the Reclaimer. So let's take a look at them. Now, this photo was from the weekly newsletter, and it, of course, was called The Bridge of the Reclaimer, titled that way. And it kind of shows a wide open view through the window and various command stations within the bridge. But this, coupled with the video that we saw, actually settled a few questions in regards to the interior, I guess, layout or geography of the Reclaimer. Now, in this excerpt from ATV that I'm slowing down just a little bit just so I can explain over it, you're seeing the bridge lift, which takes you up to the upper deck where the bridge is and away from the lower deck where the tractor beam stations are, and there's a couple of crew stations down there as well. Now, in the weekly newsletter, we got this bit of a shot, which was, kind of the interior of that, I guess you would call it a service area, tractor beam command area down in the lower decks in the front of the ship. And then we also got some more video footage kind of detailing that. ATV, of course, helped flesh that area out a little bit more as we actually got some more detailed shots of those crew stations and the tractor beam station right up in the front, which I guess would be located right about here. Also featured in the footage was the internal cargo area. Now, this is traditional cargo and not, of course, where you store scrap metal. But overall, there was a ton of footage, of new footage too, of the interior and, various exterior shots which were built into a later part of the episode of ATV where they were talking about effects, and I'll show that up next. But one of the things that was missing from the weekly, scheduled update was the production schedule update. And that has, unfortunately, I went back to the previous week and tried to click on the production schedule to see if maybe it was just an accidental omission, but it's still the old version of the production schedule with no changes that I have seen as of yet. So, I've been kind of watching the Reclaimer very closely, of course, as an owner, someone who purchased it, I think, what was it, all the way back in 2014. And as a very excited owner, I'm, of course, very pumped to see the ship in game. And so I've been kind of watching and looking at the schedule to see if it was maybe not pulled out and then maybe put in a new place. But this week we didn't get that production schedule update. Now, we did get an overall monthly studio report, so that might account for why that was not included with, this week's newsletter. So I can't really tell you if the Reclaimer has been moved anywhere new in the production schedule. Where does it sit right now? Well, production is still, I guess, slated for completion at the beginning of September, and its possible inclusion in a future update, it depends. There is a precedent in the game for ships being released into the client before their supporting systems are in the game. The Caterpillar is an obvious example, the Starfarer as well. Caterpillar for cargo, Starfarer for cargo and for its fueling systems. Could the Reclaimer appear in a future update of Star Citizen prior to the implementation of salvage? There is a precedent for that. But then again, they may want to hold it back, sort of like the Idris and the Javelin, and wait until they have all the bits and bobs and all the pieces in place to really show off that ship in all its glory. So I kind of hope they'll release it early to a certain degree, but then on the other hand, it would be nice to not only have the ship, but then have the supporting salvage system to be able to do something with it. So I'm sure, there's arguments on both sides. I'm a little torn between them, but still, Reclaimer looking good. Possibility of seeing it in game and playable this year? I don't think so. At this point, I don't think that we will see it unless they decide that, hey, you know what, let's just put it out there and let people play around with it. You know, the Idris and the Javelin also are featured in Squadron 42, so, you know, there's a reason why they're holding a lot of that stuff back, even though we have seen so many detailed shots of both ships being so finished. You know, they're obviously holding them back to add to that oomph and that wow factor when Squadron 42 releases. Also included in ATV was, of course, some more detailed work being done on the Hull C. The Hull C, of course, is still scheduled for 3.1. And, well, the absence of a production schedule update doesn't mean that this ship has been pushed. And so I think that it is definitely still going to make it for 3.1 for all the people who bought it. And finally, we did get some brief snippets on the, the Aegis Eclipse. We also saw some very basic beginning shots of the cockpit interior as that ship is being fleshed out. But those are very early shots, and those the screens do look like they might be a little bit obtrusive. I think it's a little bit early to tell until we see the cockpit fully built out and not just those very early shots of it. Now, this week's absence of a production schedule update, you'd think that I might kind of jump on that point, but realistically, we got a monthly studio update this week, so I think that precluded the production schedule update, and I don't think that there's anything related to the fact that the beginning of the aim date window for Evocati testing for 3.0 came and went yesterday, and, you know, it didn't happen. Now, of course, the aim date for 3.0 testing for the Evocati was between the 7th and the 20th of July now, and so they can still hit that window prior to the 20th of July. So hopefully next week we'll get a production schedule update with our weekly newsletter, and we'll have a clearer picture of what's going on. Now, as for the Hull C, maybe seeing it this year, that kind of depends on some other factors as well, because as we know, we are closing in now on the end of 2017. We are moving into the second half of the year, and of course we have Gamescom coming up. We have CitizenCon, and we also are at a point where we're kind of waiting for some big news on Squadron 42 as well. So 3.0 was, of course, a precursor to being able to do Squadron 42. We knew that that was a lot of the foundation work in 3.0 was going to feed into being able to finish Squadron 42. So it is possible that once 3.0 hits the ground, Squadron 42 is then going to hit a sprint to try and get it done prior to the end of 2017 or early into 2018, with at least giving us something at CitizenCon or Gamescom, CitizenCon more likely, to look at and see where Squadron 42 is, because, you know, Squadron 42 has, of course, been a little bit late. So hopefully in the next few months we should have a much clearer picture of how things are going, though on the ship front it does appear that we are getting a lot more ships a lot more quickly than we had in the past. And the Reclaimer, I think, is kind of a testament to them reusing art assets and really accelerating the production schedule, because that ship, which has been in production since about the beginning of this year, has really moved ahead by leaps and bounds, and the Reclaimer is a pretty damned big ship. Anyways, that's the show for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Quantum travel initiated.